Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. It's been a while since my last video, so I hope you have been well and healthy. For those of you who just stumbled upon this video, welcome to my channel. My name is Maddie and I make book related content. This video is going to be dedicated to my March reading plans, specifically my Korean March reading plans. This is a reading event that is annual, put together by a Croatian bookstagrammer who is trying to, promote Korean literature during the month of March. Last year I took part. I actually watched more Korean movies than I actually got to read Korean books, but the Korean books that I did read last year during this Korean March event I loved so much, and I'm really looking forward to discovering more Korean books. I am a huge fan of Korean cinema, but I haven't really been reading a lot of the Korean literature out there. But the few books that I did read, I loved so much. They're some of my favorite books that I recommend to people all the time. So I am really excited to just dedicate a whole month to reading just Korean literature and discovering even more books that I'm probably going to love so much. Without much further ado, I'm going to take you through my TBR plans. There are 10 books if I'm not wrong, so it's a little bit ambitious. The first book that I have here is The White Book by Han Kang, translated by Deborah Smith. At the time I'm filming this, I'm actually reading The Vegetarian. I have an ebook copy from my library. And the reason I ordered this was because I was in love with her writing style after the first chapter in The Vegetarian. So I actually read Human Acts last year and I loved that one as well. But I kept myself from buying The White Book because I figured that the next book after Human Acts that I'm going to read was The Vegetarian. And as soon as I read the first chapter in The Vegetarian, which is written exquisitely, I just ordered this from Amazon. I just couldn't help myself. What I found really interesting was that, again, I loved Human Acts and I thought the writing was so different than anything that I've ever read before. I didn't expect The Vegetarian to be so well written, but at the same time so different than Human Acts. The writing style is completely different, but they're both so good. I'm amazed at her writing style and how beautiful her writing is. By the way, I love this cover so much. I love how simplistic the cover is. I love the Korean writing. The writing on the cover is embossed, and inside there's just beautiful, where is it? There we go. Beautiful illustrations as well, like black and white illustrations. And I feel like this is just gonna be like a one sitting read that's gonna be beautiful. The next book that I have is a short story collection, and I've actually mentioned this in one of the videos that I made last year. It is Flowers of Mold by Ha Seong-nan, and it is translated from Korean by Janet Hong. And this one is a collection of 10 short stories that are kind of, the description on the back says that they're pleasant enough on the surface, but they're kind of disturbing and right below the surface. And I love that so much, that description. I love it so much. I mentioned in my previous video where I mentioned it that made me think of Yoko Ogawa's Revenge and the Diving Pool collections, which I loved very much also. So I think I'm gonna love this one. It's got 10 stories, like I said, and I'm hoping to maybe read one story a day. This would be my first book by Ha Seong-nan, but I know that she also has a second short story collection that's published by the same publisher, which is Open Letter Press, and that one's called Bluebeard's First Wife, I think. And I'm really looking forward to seeing if I really like this as much as I think I will, and if I do, trying to get my hands on her second short story collection as well. The third book that I have here is Familiar Things by Hwan So-kyung, translated by Sora Kim Russell. Hwan So-kyung is a very established writer in Korea. He has a lot of works written. He also has a lot of works translated into English, which is very exciting. Last year I read At Dusk by him, which I have right here. And I really liked this book. It was definitely a book that was memorable, and it made me want to read more by him. His work is more focused on the underprivileged in South Korea. I believe this one follows a boy that lives in the slums of Seoul. I don't know much about it, and I don't want to know much about it before I read it. This is probably one of my top books that I want to get to this month out of all 10. And I just love this cover so much. This is published by Scribe US, and I just love the neon pink. I don't really care too much about neon pink in general, but I just love how well it works with this book. And speaking of neon colors, the next book that I have here also has some flashy neon colors on it, and this one is a thriller. And I'm talking about The Plotters by Un-Suk Kim. This one is translated by Sora Kim Russell again. So this one, I really have no clue what it is about. But I know that I've been meaning to read it since I first saw it come out a couple of years ago, maybe even a few years ago. It had this really cool cover, like the hardback cover is a really cool like chair with a target on it, like a hitman target on it. I'm gonna put the picture somewhere here, but it really attracted me to read it. I don't know why it took me so long to get to the book. And I prefer paperbacks, so I did order the paperback instead of the hardcover, even though that cover was so memorable to me. But I know this is a thriller. I know it has to do with like a former hitman or a hitman. And I know that it's very fast paced from what I've heard, and also it has like plot twists and the likes. I think I'm going to just fly through this. I'm so excited to read this. This is probably going to be one of those things that's going to clear the mood a little bit, because a lot of my other picks are a little heavier and more emotional. But I'm looking forward to this one. If it is at all like a Korean thriller movie, it's going to be amazing. I love the flashy colors, like the neon pink and the neon yellow on the cover. The spine, this is the spine. The neon yellow on the spine. They look really nice on the shelf together. The next book that I have here in the pile is a family drama, I think it is. It's called I'll Go On by Hwang Jung-eun, translated by Emily Ye-won. And this one is published at Tilted Axis Press, and Tilted Axis Press is actually a indie press in the UK that was started by Deborah Smith, who is a translator of Hong Kong's works. Tilted Axis Press focuses on South Asian, maybe even Southeast Asian literature, and they publish like lesser known stories from lesser known authors. And they made them available in English, which is amazing. This one is a story about two sisters, I think. I don't really know. It is a story of two sisters. Like, one finds out about her younger sister's pregnancy, and there's a lot of family memories and all that. This one is up on my list as well. The next book that I have here is The Starlet and the Spy by Jimin Lee, and it is translated by Chi-Young Kim. It follows a Korean translator in Seoul, and she learns that Marilyn Monroe is going to visit Korea, and she's going to be interpreting for her and her team of delegates, and then she develops a relationship, I believe, with Marilyn Monroe. It sounds very interesting, and this kind of like culture clash between America and South Korea, especially right after the Korean War. I don't know if I said, but it's said right after the Korean War. Is just sounds fascinating, and it's really short, and it's blurbed on the back by Kyung Suk Shin, who wrote Please Look After Mother, which is one of my favorite books of all time, and it's also South Korean. The next book that I have here is another short story collection, and this one's actually an ARC. I won this in a Goodreads giveaway. I was so happy that I won a copy of I'm Waiting for You and Other Stories by Kim Bo-young, and this one is translated, there's two translators. It's translated by Sophie Bowman and Sung-ryu Is. And this is a speculative science fiction collection. Kim Bo-young is one of South Korea's most active and influential science fiction authors. This is her debut in the English language, which is really exciting. It is, like I said, a collection of short science fiction stories. And science fiction is one of those genres that I really wanted to read more of. I feel like I've been intimidated for the longest time to read science fiction just because I feel like you have to have a really good understanding of scientific concepts that I don't feel like I have an understanding of at all. So I kind of stay away from science fiction, but whenever I do stumble upon science fiction, I really enjoy reading it. So I'm kind of trying to step out of my comfort zone and read more. And I am really looking forward to reading this because this one's coming out in April. I believe it's April 6th. The last physical book that I have here is the only one that is not translated from Korean. This one's a graphic novel, and this is written by a Korean adoptee. And it is Palimpsest Documents from a Korean Adoption by Lisa Woo Rim Syoblom. And butcher that. She is a Korean adoptee, like I said, and I believe this is her story, like her true story of trying to find her biological family in Korea, and just her journey getting there. And I'm not sure if she does reconnect with her family in Korea, but I'm going to find out when I read it. I'm really looking forward to this. I read quite a bunch of the different graphic novels published by Drawn and Quarterly. I think they're doing such an amazing job of bringing diverse stories out there. I have two more books on my Kindle that I'm hoping to get to, and those are both written by Pyun Hye-young. And I believe they're both translated by Sora Kim Russell. A few years ago, I read The Hole by Pyun Hye-young, and I really liked this one. This was a very interesting psychological thriller, which was blurbed to be like Misery by Stephen King. I found it nothing like Misery by Stephen King. It was just the setting of the main character being immobilized to his bed was similar to Misery by Stephen King, but nothing else was similar to it at all. But I found like this psychological dread portrayed so well that, you know, this book just put everything that Pyun Hye-young writes on my radar. So when I saw her other books being translated, I think I found them in the different Kindle daily deals. I snatched those ebooks like right away. Her two other books are The City of Ash and Red and The Law of Lines, I think it is. And those two I own on my Kindle. I hope to read them this month as well. If not both of them, at least The City of Ash and Red, because chronologically that's like her first book, I believe. Even before The Hole, that was written first in Korean. So I'm really hoping to read at least that one, if not both of them. Before we leave, let's take a look at this impressive stack that I really hope I will get to, but now when I'm looking at it, seriously doubt I will get to it all. These are all the books that I'm hoping to read in March. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and if you loved any of these books and, you know, what you thought of them. And let me know down below if there's any other Korean books that you feel are, you know, must-reads for someone trying to explore Korean literature. And I will hopefully see you soon in another video. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.